In the Syrian capital, another horrific humanitarian crisis is worsening. The Yarmouk refugee camp sits just 10 kilometers from the heart of Damascus. And reports say some 90% of the camp is now controlled by ISIS and another militant group, the Al-Nusra Front. Rights groups say Syria's military is dropping barrel bombs on the camp. And not far from Yarmouk, the UN's point man for Palestinian refugees visited Saturday with refugees who have been caught in that conflict. He met with some of the relatively fortunate ones, Yarmouk residents who have managed to escape since ISIS took over. To help provide some context about the besieged camp and its trapped residents, I'd like to bring in Salim Salamah. He is the head of the Palestinian League for Human Rights in Syria. He was born in Yarmouk, and he's joining me now from Malmö, Sweden. Salim, it's great to have you on the program. Thank you for your time. As I said in the intro, Salim, you've lived in the Yarmouk refugee camp. I understand that you have been in touch with the people who are inside on a regular basis. You've been speaking with them. What have they been telling you about what has been happening since ISIS has seized a huge majority of that neighborhood?
In fact, I would like to highlight that this is another, the invasion of ISIS to Yarmouk is one chapter in a very long horror movie that has been taking place in the camp. Since 2 years, there is an imposed siege on the camp, and people do not have access to any sort of resources. 200 people were starved to death in 2014. So what's going on today actually is just a new tragedy for them. People basically, since a couple of days, they don't have any sort of food. They are back to consume soup with herbs, which is basically a spiced water, a water with some taste. So in case there is no urgent intervention by the United Nations and other parties in order to get food within the camp, in a couple of days we might start losing people again.
That's a heartbreaking situation. What about the ability to escape? As we showed there in the video, you had the UN point person meeting with those who are fortunate enough to escape, the Palestinian refugees. How many are believed to be still trapped inside, and are they getting any help to flee?
In fact, there is no escape from this situation. The Syrian regime has been besieging the area since 2.5 years now, more or less. So in case people had the opportunity to escape, they wouldn't have saved it. The people who managed to escape are a very tiny minority, that 200 people who managed to get outside the camp. So basically everybody is trapped inside now, waiting their destiny. The highest estimations speak about 18,000 people trapped inside the camp, with other estimations speaking about 2,000 of them displaced within the southern besieged area of the camp. Let me just tell you something about the fact that those people who are trapped in the camp, they are trapped in between the knives of ISIS, but as well trapped under the barrel bombs of the Syrian regime, which is a very indiscriminate weapon that can create very massive destruction in the infrastructure and the human casualties. So who is inside the camp is just waiting their destiny, which is exactly unknown for them.
Right. You mentioned a really important point there. These barrel bombs that are raining down on the refugee camp. What do the people tell you about how often this is happening? Because obviously this is a very difficult situation when you have ISIS and other extremist groups moving in, and the Syrian government trying to retaliate. ISIS and these other jihadists are hiding within the civilian population.
This is, in fact, a very effective strategy to counter the invasion of ISIS, because according to the testimonies we have spoken to in the Palestinian League, most of those barrel bombs are falling on civilian areas, so basically causing civilian injuries and casualties. On the 9th of April, the Syrian regime helicopters went into a very low height and bombed Palestine hospital just over the hospital, where a flag of the Syrian Red Crescent is extremely clear. So the damage that is being caused is directly caused against civilians. It is you will never be able to win a war against a militia that conducting a guerrilla war style, beside bombing directly hospitals and directing medical staff. I mean, what's going on inside is war crime according to international law and Geneva Conventions. So I don't see any strategic gain by the Syrian regime doing that, except increasing the suffering of 18,000 people who are already malnutrition and besieged since 2.5 years.
Give us a little bit of context here, especially for people who may not be familiar with the Yarmouk refugee camp. I mean, I guess refugee camp is more of a misnomer. It's more a neighborhood, a suburban neighborhood. And years ago, I mean, this was a bustling suburb, wasn't it, of about 150,000 Palestinian refugees. There were substantial infrastructure with mosques and schools as well.
Out of 500,000 residents, in fact, this is what most of the world does not know, that Yarmouk had 500,000 residents. The majority are Syrians, in fact, and Palestinians are 150 to 180,000. So yes, it used to be a very important culture, economic, and a commercial hub of the capital, Damascus, and a very vibrant political landscape of the Palestinian diaspora in Syria.
Yeah, and the UN calling for a ceasefire so they can get some humanitarian access to help the people who are trapped in this besieged refugee camp. We hope that there will be access soon. In the meantime, really appreciate you keeping us posted on what's happening inside there. Salim Salamah, head of the Palestinian League for Human Rights, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ray.